So Kenrith, the midrange king, just won Lotus Bowl the February 24th, 2024 this year. Like, just now. And the winner... Krortai... Sorry, can't pronounce your name. However, this means deck tech time, where we're going to go over Kenrith's average win rate currently and the cards that are good for him. But first and foremost, we need to begin with some perspective, like how good is that win rate actually. Kenrith have climbed above Atraxa. Atraxa have actually been one of the better commanders in this format, but she's been steadily dropping. Kenrith has a better win rate than Dehada, Binder of Wills, a much better win rate than Elevir of the Wild Court. Kenrith even have a better win rate than Kinnan. Slightly, or let's just go with equal win rate to Nayela the Blade Blossom. The difference between these two are like 0.7. Even though Cise is dropping a tiny bit, she's still standing strong and stronger than Kenrith. And then we have Tymna and Kram that is still way up there, with a much better win rate than Kenrith in general. Big surprise. Now the win rate is going like up and down all the time, so this could change now and then. Like suddenly Nayela is a better win rate than Kenrith, and suddenly Kinnan has a better win rate than Kenrith. It goes a little bit up and down, so to say. But we're starting to collect a very high sample size, so we can really start to see a very good picture of Kenrith's average performance. And this little short intro should give you some indication of his, so to say, leaderboard position currently. But now let's jump into the Lotus Bowl and take a look at Team Noel, the winner, I can pronounce that name, decklist. I really like the name Midrange King. So we have Teferi as a planeswalker, we have Agatha, Bird of Paradise, Bloomtender, Dauntless Dismantler, Deathrite Shaman, Displacer Kitten, Dockside, Kinnan, Ignoble, Grand Abolisher, Gilded Drake, Esper Sentinel, Emil the Blessed, Draenite Magistrate, Lofo, Lures of the Dream Den, Mayhem Devil, Noble, Oppo Agent, Orcish Bowmaster, Phantasmal Image, Fast Tide Bringer, and Fastest Oracle. These strange arts are usually confusing me so much. Talion, Skurk Prospector, Ranger Captain of Eos, Phyrexian Metamorph, Culling Ritual, Demonic Tutor, Final of Devastation, Imperial Seal, Savine's Reclamation, Toxic Deluge, Wheel of Fortune, Flusterstorm, Entomb, Demonic Concentration, Cyclonic Rift, that is also a very strange art. Brain Freeze, an offer you can't refuse. This is a cute art, but also strange. Abrupt Decay, Force of Negation, Force of Will, Intuition, Mental Misstep, Mindbreak Trap, Pact of Negation, Path to Exile, Vamp Tutor, Tainted Pact, Swan Song, Silence, Agatha's Soul's Cauldron, Arcane Signet, Chrome Mox, Fellow Stone, Lion's Eye Diamond, Lotus Petal, Mana Crypt, Wishclaw Talisman, the One Ring, the Soul Ring, the One Ring, the Soul Ring, the Mox Diamond, the Mana Vault. We need more rings, by the way. I really like saying it, the One Ring, the Soul Ring. Carp the Flowers, Mystic Remora, Rhystic Studies, Smothering Tide, Survival of the Fittest, Underworld Breach, and a 28 land total. So that is a pile of cards. He is combining Emil the Blessed together with Dockside Extortionist, obvious thing, but also Displacer Kitten, Dockside Extortionist, but also Displacer Kitten and Teferi Time Reveler together with... He's actually not playing Mox Amber or Mox Opal, makes sense, but still Mana Crypt and Fellow Stone and some of the other Soul Ring will still work great with Teferi and Displacer Kitten. Then we also have Kinnan and Dockside Extortionist. Now, worthy notion is that he's both playing Kinnan and Agatha of the Wild Cauldron together, which is kinda cool, because you can reduce Kinnan's activated ability and start flipping into more things. As well as Agatha is also reducing the activation cost of various different Kenrith abilities as well. As you're normally trying to make Dockside loops with Kenrith, Agatha Soul's Cauldron will reduce the amount of treasures you need your Dockside to create those Dockside loops with Kenrith. He was also playing Underworld Breach, Lion's Diamond and Brain Freeze. But let's dig into the details of card choices here. And this is where things will start to get amazing, and I love it because I am suddenly wrong. So for those who have been watching me have heard me say more towards a turbo positively. I'm kind of recommending turbo in general, because usually when I'm looking into value engines like Talion, I'm usually seeing a drop, a lower, kinda, not huge, win rate. And it will get even more crazy when we do this! So I have been heavily promoting Ad Nauseam, and I've observed that Ad Nauseam is usually getting a very good win rate whenever I'm looking at it on other commanders, so to say. However, here, suddenly, looking into Kenrith, it doesn't seem to be performing that great for him. Now, 21.28 is still not that terrible. There are definitely commanders with an average win rate below that. But as you can see, average win rate 24.75, that is the average win rate of Kenrith total. Those 289 decks get an average win rate together, only Kenrith 24.75, but you have 28% that have played Ad Nas in their deck, that is a total of 81 decks, and they've achieved a 21.28 win rate, which is seeming to be performing weaker compared to the rest of the Kenrith options. And that is why, jumping back to Talion, we're seeing something completely different. So the takeaway so far, like the big message this video is basically going to continue forward with, is that Turbo doesn't seem to be doing great, while midrange seems to be doing good, which is, once again, opposite to what I've been recommending so far on my other YouTube channels. Have I been lying? Have I been wrong? No. I think that the message this video is going to showcase is that I believe that sometimes it's good, your commander is basically built towards being a mid-range commander, or your commander is better suited to be a turbo option, so to say. But let's continue forward. We have really strange results like Mana Drain, sitting on an average win rate of 28.49, a 50-50 split. That is perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. So we have one group playing Mana Drain, and we have one group that is not playing Mana Drain. And the group that is playing Mana Drain seems to be doing better than the other group. Mayhem Devil. Now this is actually not really a mid-range stacks card in Kenrith. This is a combo piece, because you're using this to kill your Dockside, and then you're using Kenrith to reanimate Dockside. Speaking of reanimating Dockside, we have Lurus of the Dream Den, which is a value engine, also sometimes a combo piece actually, that you can build it into that, so to say, and it's also performing quite good actually. Sticking on the train on comparing value engines to turbo, we have the Elvish Spirit Guide, which is a great card. I'm usually seeing a very amazing win rate on this, and it's a perfect ritual. It's a great turbo card, and suddenly here it is not doing that great anymore. Auriok Salvager is not performing good. You're usually combining this with Lion's Eye Diamond, and then you have infinite mana. You can also combine this with Undual Breach, because Lion's Eye Diamond goes into Undual Breach and Auriok Salvagers together. And by the way, you can cast your commander with Lion's Eye Diamond faster, and then use Kenrith's ability to reanimate things that you discarded with Lion's Eye Diamond. But then if we're jumping over to Undual Breach, what? We're also seeing a kind of drop in the win rate. Now, first and foremost, this is something of potentially the best combo so far in the format, kinda, and everyone is kinda playing this. So a lot of people are starting to stacks against Undual Breach and trying to hate it out. And once again, we're starting to get a picture that maybe Kenrith shouldn't be this turbo commander and more like a mid-range commander, so to say. So as you can see, not every Kenrith deck is actually playing this, and the ones that don't seems to be doing okay. Still, the winner of this tournament did play Undual Breach and Brain Freeze and Lion's Eye Diamond as well, so let's not just throw it out of your deck yet. Our champion did play Teferi Time Reveler, and I've looked at this and often seen a very good win rate on this, and here you can see that yeah, it's performing quite good. He was also playing the One Ring, and it's also performing really good. Now, whenever I'm basically looking at the One Ring, is usually showcasing a very good performance in general. Orcish Bowmaster in Kenrith, 75% inclusion rate, and a 25.55 average win rate on all of those Kenrith decks that have played Orcish Bowmaster. However, when we jump over to Daffy Voidwalker, another really good stacks effect, the win rate is suddenly dropping. I've actually observed that Daffy Voidwalker in other commanders as well don't really hold up that great win rate in general. So Daffy Voidwalker seems to be on the theme of how it is performing in other commanders as well as how it is performing inside Kenrith. It doesn't look like a great recommended card, kinda. And the average player experience I've heard, and my personal playing experience with it as well, is that it isn't really doing a great job. Sure, it's shutting down Underworld Breach, but usually they are just removing this and then casting their breach and then winning somehow. And the value that you gain from that isn't that good. Sure, you can cast something that he exiles, but it's one-time use only. And by the way, Daffy Voidwalker is like the perfect card for Kenrith, because Kenrith can reanimate Daffy Voidwalker, give it haste, and activate it immediately. Still though, it doesn't seem to be a good card for Kenrith. And when you look into it like that, it's actually quite a lot of mana to start tricking the game and value engine with Daffy Voidwalker and Kenrith together. Lofo, another amazing value engine. I'm usually seeing a very positive win rate when people are including this, and as you can see here, Kenrith playing Lofo seems to be a good thing. But now, let's make things a little bit more advanced. We've currently looked at individual cards on their own, let's look at combinations. So here we have Displacer Kitten, Doxed Extortionist, and Emil the Blessed. Our champion was playing all three of these together. And we have a total of 91 decks that have entered into tournaments with these three cards together in their Kenrith deck lists, and they're getting an average win rate together of 26.82. And that is really good. That is the same win rate as cEDH actually. You can also see in red win rate without cards. You see 23.77, which is lower than the average. So the big recommendation here might be that this is a good combo for Kenrith, as it is a pretty good mid-range combo actually. And by the way, the 3 white silence cards, great, play them. And once again, still Ad Nauseam and Underworld Breach, when you're not playing these two cards, you can see that you're doing better in Kenrith without them. Strange. Once again, looking at the 3, or actually this time 4 silence cards and adding Displacer Kitten. So we have Grand Abolisher, Silence, Ranger Captain, Teferi, those are your 4 silence effects here. And then the 5th Displacer Kitten, we have 80 decks that are playing all 5 together, and they are receiving a 27.20 average win rate. Good. Now let's jump back to this page and let's just theoretically add the 3 silence effects. As you can see here, if we're jumping between the two, you can see that we have 71 decks that are playing these two together, and then 64 decks that are also playing those 3 silence effects together. The win rate goes up a tiny bit, but not that much. Still indicating that even though you're combining cards that previously were doing great with Kenrith, they are still holding Kenrith back, kinda. So we can also look into various combinations and exclusions. So here we have 88 decks that have entered into tournaments with Displacer Kitten, Doxed Extortionist, and Teferi Time Reveler, all 3 cards in their decklist, but are also excluding that Ad Nauseam, and they are getting a 27.25 average win rate, still indicating that, yeah, the midrange plan good and the Turbo Adnals plan bad. If we quickly jump back to this page, we have Doxed Extortionist, Phantasmal Image, and Phyrexian Metamorph. He wasn't including Flesh Duplicate, Cursed Mirror, or Clever Impersonator, and those were basically the only 2 clone effects he did play. And as you can see here, seems to be doing good. We have 113 decks that have entered into tournaments with these 3 cards together, with an average win rate of 26.33. But if we're also adding Kinnan to this, same inclusion cards or different kind of exclusion cards, adding Kinnan, the win rate actually goes up. The inclusion rate, the amount of decks that had it before, went down, so we were at 13 decks and it jumped down to 100. We basically lost 13, but the win rate went upwards, indicating that Kinnan inside your Kenrith deck together with these 3 other cards seems to be a good choice. This is so crazy, and I want to talk a lot about this picture you're currently looking at right now. Now, this is usually the picture or the combination where I'm seeing win rates around 27 and sometimes 28 and looking at all my decks. This is including Tymna Kram, we're including other Grixis combination. We're basically looking at all my entire sample size of something around 14 or 15,000 tournament entries. Now we're only looking at Kenrith. You see 289 total decks entries. We have only 11 Kenrith decks that have played this combination, and they're getting an average win rate of 20.75, playing Adnos, Dockside, Oppo Agent, Orcish Bowmaster, Fastest, and Underworld Breach, while they are excluding Daffy Voidwalker, Gildredrick, and Talion. What this picture is basically trying to showcase is that is it better to go turbo or is it better to go mid-range? And what this picture is showcasing clearly is that the answer is it's better to go mid-range. But whenever I'm looking at this on Tymna Kram or most other commanders, it's usually showing the opposite, that it's better to go turbo. And I love it, because we're starting to once again see what I said in the beginning of the video, that some commanders maybe should be more towards the mid-range game plan, while others should be moving more towards a turbo game plan. Switching over and looking at some mid-range cards, like these cards are all-stars, we're getting a very amazing win rate here, by the way. And by the way, now we're excluding Talion, Fairy Mastermind, and Braids, and we're still getting a pretty amazing result. But then boom, if we're adding Adnos, it just goes down the toilet. I also have the Underworld Breach, Lion's Diamond, and Brain Freeze. Kenrith is usually doing this. As you can see, you have 220 decks that have entered into tournaments with this. And look at that win rate without cards. It's up at 31.59. So, yeah. The win rate playing these three cards, excluding Blind Obedience and Dragon's Rage Channeler, for Kenrith is 22.45. And to test things and just see what happens if we're including a stacks effect, Dauntless Dismantler, the win rate actually goes up a bit. And if we actually jump back to this picture, the champion's deck list, once again, he is playing that Dauntless Dismantler. He is also once again playing that Lion's Eye Diamond, that Brain Freeze, and that Underworld Breach. It is important to mention this, and I usually say it every video that I do with this kind of style. The statistics is not everything. Player skill and the meta matters a lot too. So it's really hard to say if you truly shouldn't play Underworld Breach, but it seems to be that the inclusion of Underworld Breach isn't your plan A, kinda. You're more towards that mid-range gameplay style, putting value engines into play, and then winning with something like Fastest Oracle together with Consult or Tainted Pact or Underworld Breach, but you're starting off with a different kind of entry mindset compared to how the turbo decks kinda enter into the games, so to say. I have one more final picture I wanna talk about and showcase before we continue forward with this video and move away from the statistics points of it. And that is this. Now first and foremost, the inclusion here, play all cards, are only 5 decks total, so the result is not statistically significant, so you can't trust the win rate up there. But it's still very interesting. Derevi, Emil the Blessed, Gaia's Cradle, and Wheel of Fortune. Our champion was actually playing Wheel of Fortune as the only wheel. He weren't playing Time Twister, Wheel of Misfortune, or Windfall. We're excluding the other 3 wheels here. As you can see among his sorceries, Wheel of Fortune is the only wheel. I've actually used this combination to look into how this combo is working with various wheels. If you've watched my video where I talk about wheels in cEDH, you might remember this. This actually got an amazing win rate before. So I'm not showcasing this to showcase potential, I'm showcasing this to kind of showcase experience. I've looked at the mid-range creature-heavy Derevi, Emil the Blessed, and Gaia's Cradle combo before, and it's usually showcasing an amazing performance. It's a combo that CC is going for, and it's a combo that mid-range Thrasius are usually going for. And I think, as you can see here, we have 5 Kenrith decks that have gone for this. Our champion didn't go for this, he did not include Derevi inside his deck list. But going forward continuously, this might be something to consider, because we're already playing that Emil the Blessed together with that Dockside Extortionist. We're already out including Gaia's Cradle, and Wheel of Fortune is kinda good. If you watched my wheel video, you might have seen that wheels were kinda good. So the only card we kinda could include here is Darevi, and we are increasing our combo potential. Also, by the way, Darevi is pretty good inside a creature-heavy deck, because you can attack with a lot of creatures, get Darevi triggers, and untap your lands and activate your Kenrith more. So what you're seeing here is not something you can trust, but trust me when I say that I've looked at this before in other variations of commander combinations, and it's usually showing great. And I think that this is something to experiment with inside the midrange Kenrith as well, as we're clearly starting to see that Kenrith in midrange seems to be doing good. Now when I look into things, I usually look into everything there is to look into, more or less. And if I'm going to sit here and showcase every single card, a lot of you are going to get bored. So I'm trying to showcase a picture, a message, a conclusion that I'm finding from the total, so that the video doesn't get just too long. And a big thing is that everyone is usually interested in different things. So if you have any specific questions, a specific card you want to see more details on, or a combination of cards, just write a comment below in the description here, and I will try to answer that, looking into the data and giving you the personal answer you are interested in. And if you're a patron, I highly recommend contacting me on my Patreon page or on Discord if you want to have a discussion around specific card combinations. You want to like move cards here and there forward and backwards to get a better understanding. But there's one more very important thing we have to talk about, and that's this one. So Lotus Bowl was the tournament that the Kenrith player won. Let's jump at Lotus Series. Here we have cEDH Weatherlight Captain by Baneslayer88 winning the entire Lotus Series, with a player size of 85 participants. So spoilers, cEDH deck tech video coming up, because I wanna dig deep into this. Currently I've been on a path towards like turbo is the way to go, as I've mentioned a lot of times inside this video already. And it is worth looking into other mid-range commanders to see if they are also performing better with less turbo and more mid-range, and cEDH is one of those. And then look into other mid-range commanders as well, typical mid-range commanders, to see if we can find a pattern. Currently there is something like a war between turbo versus mid-range. And it is a very important question to try and answer, which one is theoretically better. And I have been continuously calculating various data around the subject, but I think it's starting to become a little bit more complicated. When you look at things overall currently, turbo seems to be doing good, better than mid-range in general. But we will see, there's a lot of different things we need to look into to make a good statement and get a correct assessment, so to say. Because there is a lot of variables. You can't just look at one specific card, see the win rate and be satisfied with that. You need to look at it on different angles and different perspectives. And we have currently been looking into Adnos outside Kenrith, and now suddenly Adnos inside Kenrith, and we're seeing a completely different result. Exciting times indeed. Maybe we're starting to see a meta shift. I mean, a lot of my sample size and data, so to say, is going back a year. I started calculating the previous year, so to say, and now we're starting to accumulate data from this year. And maybe we will see a shift where like mid-range is going slightly upwards, while turbo is going slightly downwards. I am actually tracking change over time. So eventually we will have like a graph where you can see the win rate of various cards going up and down and such. In any case, I hope you got some inspiration and some good directions for you on how you should potentially build and play Kenrith in 2024. Midrange seems to be the correct choice, value engines, counterspells, and different variations of midrange combos. I hope you enjoyed the video and have a great day.